Okay, today we see the stoppage of work. What is stoppage of work? In the royalty, there are two parties. One is lessee, another is lessor, and they makes agreement at the beginning of the activity. In the beginning, they make the agreement. In the agreement, they fix the rate of royalty for benefit derived. Rate of royalty is the first clause or first point of agreement, and second point of agreement is what is the minimum rent. What is the minimum rent? If the lessee fails to raise the minimum amount of royalty, or lessee will not derive the benefit from the asset, or the benefits derived are not up to the mark, then what will be the minimum rent paid by the lessee? First is rate of royalty, second is minimum rent, and whatever minimum rent pays, that minimum rent includes royalty plus extra amount out of pocket amount by the lessee. So that extra amount or the additional amount paid by the lessee over the royalty is called as short working. That can be recovered by the lessee whenever the royalty is more than the minimum rent. Okay. Regarding that, they have to make an agreement how to recover the short working, whether that is to be recovered in the first 2-3 years, or that is to be recovered in the floating period. That is to be recovered in the floating period. That is to be discussed and decided at the time of agreement. Once the short working point is cleared, then if there is a irrecovery of short working, means the short working is not recovered according to the given conditions, then that is called as irrecovery of short working. I explained these points yesterday, and today we see the stoppage of work. Stoppage of work means due to one or any other reason. It may be abnormal or normal. If there is a stoppage of work due to strike, due to lockdown, due to flood, due to any other natural calamities, if there is a stoppage of work, stoppage of production for some period, then what about that? How to handle it? Regarding this, there is an agreement between the lessor and lessee. If there is a stoppage of work, then that stoppage of work period minimum rent is to be changed. The minimum rent for that particular year is to be changed, and how to fix the minimum rent in connection with stoppage of work. If there is a stoppage of work, suppose there is a stoppage of work due to conditions beyond control. The conditions are there may be strike or flood, or in case of minimum rent is required to be revised. In case of stoppage of work, the minimum rent is to be revised. How to revise the minimum rent if there is a stoppage of work? This is the point to be discussed at the time of agreement. Okay, at the time of agreement, they have to discuss it. So regarding this, there are 3 to 4 points. The first point is reduction of minimum rent in proportion to stoppage of work. The point may be regarding the stoppage of work. For the stoppage period, the minimum rent is to be reduced based on proportionate period related with the stoppage of work. For example, the work stopped for 3 months. So minimum rent for 3 months is to be reduced. 3 months minimum rent will be reduced. Out of total rent for the year, they may reduce for 3 months. Okay. Reduction of minimum rent in the proportion of the stoppage of work. If there is a 3 month strike, you reduce minimum rent to the extent of 3 months. That is called as reduction of minimum rent in proportion to stoppage of rent. You calculate the minimum rent for that year by application of this equation. Minimum rent for the stoppage of work year is equal to actual minimum rent into time units in the productive period. Time units in the productive period means how many days or how many months the production is undertaken. Means, for example, in a year there are 12 months. Out of 12 months, 3 months is a strike. 3 months is a strike. Then productive time is productive unit in time units are 9 months. 9 months are called as productive period. Productive period, that is called as time unit in the productive period. Time unit in productive period means it is the work undertaken. It may be in days, it may be in months. For example, strike is for 3 months in a year, 9 months is a productive period. If strike is for 100 days in a year, you deduct 100 days in a year and remaining is 265. 265 days is called as productive period. Okay, like that you take in the numerator. In the denominator, you take number of days in a year or number of months in a year, time units in a year. Okay, in this way you take this equation and calculate the revised minimum rent. Revised minimum rent. This is the first point. And second point is on the basis of fixed percentage. Without considering the time period, the minimum rent may be reduced to certain percentage. 10% reduction, 20% reduction, 30% reduction, 50% reduction in the minimum rent. Like this, directly there may be a fixed percentage of reduction in the minimum rent may be made as per the agreement. Fixed percentage may be reduced in the minimum rent. And next is by fixed amount in the year of stoppage. The fixed amount of minimum rent may be fixed for the stoppage of work year. Fixed amount. Okay. And royalty earned itself may be considered as minimum rent for that stoppage year, stoppage of work year. These are the 4 points regarding revision of minimum rate. These are the 4 points to be considered for the revision of minimum rent in the period of stoppage. If the work stops, if there is a breakdown of work due to one or any other reason, for that year, you have to reduce the minimum rent. You have to revise the minimum rent based on agreement between the lessor and lessee. The agreement between the lessor and lessee may be proportionate reduction is the first point. Second point is the fixed percentage of reduction may be there, or there may be a fixed amount of minimum rent for the period of strike, or royalty itself may be considered as minimum rent. These are the 4 points you have to consider in case of stoppage of work. If there is a production stops due to strike, flood, or any other reason. This is the point you remember. Someone has drawn the line on the slide. Okay. His name is recorded in the laptop. I'll explain, I'll take all these points. I'll discuss all this during the offline class. Remember, my dear students, whatever misbehaves you involves, all the misbehaves will be discussed during the offline class. I'll record each and every misbehavior. Okay, this is regarding the stoppage of work. And if there is a delay in the payment of royalty or payment of amount to the lessor, then the lessee has to pay penalty or the fine or interest. Regarding sound, it is not my problem, it is the problem of internet. Okay. After the live class, you go through the video uploaded in the Google Drive. You go through the Google Drive and get it clear. Regarding delay in by the lessee, if the lessee makes delay in payment of amount, then the lessee has to pay the penalty, or he has to pay the fine, or he has to pay the interest for late payment. This is the point you remember. Okay. Please erase that line on the screen. Who has drawn the line? Please erase that line. Now I would like to explain the same thing with the help of an example. Let us consider lessor is a Ram. Ram means he is a landlord. Ram is a landlord and lessee is a Sham. Sham is a mining company. Sham is a mining company. And rate of royalty is ₹5 per ton coal raised from the breadth of the earth. Ram is a landlord, gave his land to Sham for the purpose of raising mineral from the breadth of the earth. And as per the agreement, rate of royalty is ₹5 per ton of coal raised from the breadth of the earth. If Sham raises mineral from the earth, for every ton of coal, Sham has to pay ₹5 as royalty. Okay, 5 as royalty. And minimum rent ₹10,000. Minimum rent 10,000 means if the royalty raised is not up to the mark, the Lessee has to pay minimum 10,000 every year. Minimum 10,000 every year. This is called as minimum rent. Then next is short working recovery. Short working recovery. What is short working recovery? If there is a short working, means out of pocket payment. Out of pocket payment is there. That is to be recovered in the first 3 years only. If you pay out of your pocket money, that is to be recovered in the first 3 years only. This is the condition. Okay. Then outputs are given like this: 2015 1000, 2016 1500, 2017 2700, 2018 3000, 2019 3200. This is the simple example I am going to explain. You make 8 columns. Sorry, 10 columns. You see the table. This is a royalty chart. In the first column, you write the year. In the first column, you write the year 2005, 15, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. Okay, there are 5 years. You write the year. Then in the second column, output. What is the quantity of output raised? Quantity of output raised is 1000, 1500, 2700, 3000, last 3200. This is the quantity raised. Then in the third column, you write the rate of royalty. In the third column, you write the rate of royalty. Rate of royalty is 5 per ton. Every year, 5 per ton. 5 rupees, 5 rupees, 5 rupees, 5 rupees. Okay. Next column is royalty. Next column is royalty. You calculate royalty. You calculate royalty by multiplying output and rate. Multiply output and rate. 1000 into 5 is equal to 5000. 1500 into 5 is equal to 7500. 2700 into 5, 13500. Then 3000 into 5, 15,000. 3200 into 5, 16,000. This is the royalty. Next column, you take minimum rent. Next column is minimum rent. What is minimum rent per year? Minimum rent per year is 10,000. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. Every year minimum rent is 10,000. Okay. 10,000 is the minimum rent every year. Next column is short working. Short working means excess of minimum rent over royalty. Okay. You see in the first year, minimum rent is more, royalty is less. Therefore, short working is equal to minimum rent minus royalty. Minimum rent minus royalty is equal to 5,000. Second year, minimum rent minus royalty 2,500. Third year, there is no short working because royalty is more. And fourth year, royalty is more. Last year, royalty is more. Therefore, first year short working 5,000, second year 2,500, third year 0, fourth year 0, fifth year 0. Okay. And in the next column, you calculate excess of royalty. Excess of royalty means what is the excess amount of royalty available. In the first year, there is no excess of royalty over the minimum rent. Second year also there is no excess for the minimum rent. Okay, in the third year, minimum rent is 10,000, royalty is 13,500. Here, royalty is 3,500 excess. Okay, 3,500 is the excess royalty. You take here, 3,500 is the excess royalty. And in the fourth year, 5,000 is the excess amount. 5,000 is the excess. And fifth year, excess is 6,000. Okay. I will tell you the equation. I will tell you the equation for short working. Short working is equal to minimum rent minus royalty. Short working is equal to minimum rent minus royalty. And excess is equal to royalty minus minimum rent. Royalty minus minimum rent. Apply the equation, ascertain the value. Okay. Then next is short working recovery. Short working recovery. This short working can be recovered in the first 3 years only. Okay. Recovery point is first 3 years only. That is to be recovered from the excess amount. Remember this. You have to recover from the excess amount. If there is a excess amount, from that you have to recover short working. This 5,000 is to be recovered from the excess. In the first year, there is no excess. In the second year, there is no excess. In the third year, there is a 3,500. You recover 3,500. 3,500 is to be recovered. Recover 3,500. Then time given for recovery is completed. 5,000 and 2,500 is the short working. Out of this amount, 3,500 recovered. And time given is completed. Given time completed, therefore, the balance will not be recovered and it goes to irrecovery column. Okay. And short working irrecovery column. First recover, second year no. In the third year, irrecovery is 4,000. How this is? Out of 7,500 short working, 3,500 recovered and 4,000 is irrecovered. 4,000 is irrecovered. Okay. 4,000 is recovered and next year, no. Then whatever payment you have to make,